Sup, Dag? So in this part, we are gonna go on a very, very long journey into this developer's room. So, you guys are watching because you enjoy the game also very much, and I enjoy the games also very much, so we are gonna dive and discover all that there is to discover. That said, let's dig in. Hey, congrats on beating the game. Feels good to earn your happy ending, huh? Relatively speaking. I mean, 5 people died, but at least me and Kyle got out okay, right? Anyway, if you ever want to read some in-depth profiles for all of us, you can check that book on the table right there. They're even more detailed than my bios, if you can believe that. Few developers on the ring, okay. Not much to say about Randy, other than that he came about as a result of brainstorming ways to make prompters a little more user-friendly. He basically served as an exposition fairy and guide, giving the player hints in case they got stuck. In the final loop of the game, the Nightmare School, he was replaced by Dolores, who would give the player hints contingent on getting a game over, though she's not nearly as friendly about it. LOL. Also, Randy is the only major character who does not die a horrible death or experience unimaginable trauma. Hooray! Unless you count your best friend being involved in a mass ritualistic killing as a trauma. Oops. Also, his favorite food is chicken spaghetti. I like spaghetti. I don't think I ever had chicken spaghetti. I always had spaghetti and meatballs. Read the character encyclopedia. Please select a character. I guess we'll start from the top and make our way to the bottom. Kyle Ray Mason. Wow, I never expected him to have a middle name. The protagonist of the story, Kyle is a popular soft-spoken senior and recent transfer to St. Giles Academy. He's well liked for his low-key friendly demeanor, and he tries to make a habit of staying away from conflict and drama. Although he can have a bit of a sarcastic side, he usually tries to keep it to himself. Just after Kyle's junior year at a local public high school, his girlfriend, Serena Gutierrez, was involved in a major car accident while on a road trip with friends. Before she succumbed to her massive burns, Kyle visited her in the hospital. However, his shock and grief got the better of him, and he left the ward without saying anything, despite Serena's pleas for him to stay with her. This abandonment has haunted Kyle ever since, contributing to his transfer to St. Giles, as well as his rejection of dating altogether. Almost a year later, his new best friend, Randy Goodwin, encouraged him to try dating again as a way to move on from his past. And with senior prom fast approaching, it was either now or never. Along the way, 3 of his classmates catch his eye: Neela Devar, Maggie Pham, and Brooke O'Keefe. However, he could never have known that the 3 girls were involved in a cruel plot. Not could he have guessed what the dire consequences of that plot would be, although it's up to the player to decide who he ultimately went to prom with. The end result was the same. Kyle found himself at the center of Dolores' curse, forced to watch as the girls he had tried to protect died before his eyes. It was then that he realized that he and only he would ever stand a chance of stopping Dolores and ending her bloody rampage. Depending on which ending is obtained, Kyle's fate changes. In the bad ending, he stays behind in Dolores' nightmare world, indulging her in her fantasies of romance out of fear for his life. In the normal ending, he returns to the real world as a paraplegic, cursed by Dolores to experience the same cruelty and isolation that she had. Finally, in the good ending, Kyle successfully reuniting Dolores with her mother, and has returned to this world, scarred but determined to go on with his life. Jesus, well, that kind of spoiled a few things for us. Good thing I decided to put this video last after we saw those 2, but as I mentioned in those part probably, I did play this part first. Randy Goodwin. Randy Eric Goodwin, Kyle's best friend at St. Giles Academy, who serves as his and the player's guide throughout the game. He has a chipper, enthusiastic personality, and he gives all of his effort in whatever he does, even if that includes sticking his nose in his fellow students' business and collecting whatever information he can get on them. However, he's more a benign gossip than a blackmailer, and he has a reputation for using his journalistic talents to help others with whatever their problems may be. Knowing that Kyle had suffered from a traumatic experience with his ex-girlfriend, Randy encouraged him to seek out a prom date as a way to dip his toes back into the dating scene and move on with his life. He then used his info gathering skills to help Kyle woo his way into the heart of Neela, Maggie, and Brooke, depending on who the player decides that he ultimately asked out. But even Randy could never have predicted the tragedy that would become known as the St. Giles Massacre, which left 5 people dead, and Kyle as the sole survivor. As the events of the game take place entirely within Dolores' nightmare world, the Randy that the players interact with is not the real one. Rather, he is a creation of Dolores designed to mimic the actual Randy and guide Kyle through the cruel game that she has devised for him. In reality, Randy is the only major character who is not affected by Dolores' curse, and it can be seen visiting Kyle in the hospital in the normal and good endings. Read another entry. Neela Arya Devar, one of Kyle's 3 potential love interests in the story. She has an endearingly sweet, unconditional, friendly personality, and she's very well liked among her classmates because of it. She's also very playful and fun-loving. Neela's known for her cooking and baking skills, specializing in recipes she learned from her grandmother in India. Her almond cookies are especially popular among the students. However, behind her cheerful personality and seemingly perfect home life with a successful family, Neela hides a very dark secret. In middle school, she inadvertently discovered that her father's real estate businesses were actually fronts for domestic and foreign mafias to engage in drug, weapon, and even human trafficking, and she has kept the secret hidden from herself and others for years since. Fearing that her idyllic family life would be shattered if she said anything, she instead chose to pretend that her father's sinister dealings never occurred, hiding her guilt behind a perpetual smile. Her deceit was successful enough that for a long time no one suspected a thing, until Brooke O'Keefe discovered via a colleague of her father's that Mr. Devar was under surveillance by the FBI. With this knowledge, Brooke approached Neela with an ultimatum. Either she would resist her until taking down Dolores Roth, her only rival towards the valedictorian honor, or her father's cruel activity would be leaked to the press. Disgusted by her plan, but desperate to keep her family together, Neela reluctantly agreed to use her honest reputation to convince Dolores that Kyle Mason had invited her to prom. Along with Maggie and Brooke, Neela then attempted to gain Kyle's attention so that he would ask her to prom and make Dolores' humiliation certain. However, unlike Brooke, Neela actually holds true affection for Kyle. She only wished that they could have become closer under better circumstances. She also expresses the most regret for her cruelty towards Dolores out of the 3 girls. Ultimately, however, she falls victim to Dolores' revenge, with her tongue cut from her mouth, and force-fed to her, symbolizing the lies that she had told not only to Dolores, but to herself as well. Read another entry. Maggie Pham, Margaret Vin Pham, one of Kyle's 3 potential love interests in the story. Maggie was the MVP of St. Giles' new co-ed basketball team, and as a result, she's become something of a school celebrity. Brash, snarky, and hot-blooded. She never says no to a challenge and always says what's on her mind. She's also a bit of a braggart. Thanks to a recent basketball scholarship she was awarded despite her less than stellar academic performance. However, beyond her tough demeanor, Maggie has a softer, friendlier side. She will defend her loved ones to the death, and she even has a fondness for stuffed animals, although mentioning it does embarrass her quite a bit. Like Neela, Maggie hides a secret that will ultimately come back to haunt her. During her junior year, her classmate Brooke O'Keefe had helped Maggie cheat on her SAT scores tests undetected, under the condition that she would owe her later on. These falsified SAT scores helped Maggie get her scholarship, and as a result, she felt she had no choice but to agree to help Brooke in her plan to humiliate Dolores Roth, despite initial objections. Using her knowledge of the school's social networking site, Maggie would create a fake profile under Kyle Mason's name, one implying that he had intended to invite Dolores to prom. What's more, she would act as the fall girl if the fake page was uncovered, and any failure to do so would result in her being outed as a cheater to school officials. Afraid of losing her scholarship and dreams of sports stardom, Maggie did what she was told she was asked, convincing herself that her goals outweighed her classmates' well-being. In addition, she agreed to vie for Kyle's attention, eager to win the contest that the three girls had set up amongst themselves. However, she got to know Kyle better and witnessed the depths of Brooke's depravity towards Dolores. She began to fully realize her true feelings towards Kyle and regret the terrible things she was doing. Her only chance to apologize was shortly before bleeding to death as a result of her arms being amputated, a punishment for crafting the false webpage. I just remember something funny. Remember when I was busy trying to decide on which girl to choose, and then I went through all the scenarios of, in the future, what if this happens? Well, apparently it's not gonna happen at all. They're all dead. And I'm scarred for life. Oh boy, that's just rough. Brooke Renee O'Keefe. One of Kyle's three potential love interests in the story, Brooke is considered one of the smartest and most popular students at St. Giles, and she is beloved for her charisma and leadership skills. She's often described as cool and level-headed, although she's quite ambitious as well. As the daughter of a senator, Brooke has dreams of political success and ultimately the presidency, and these dreams are what drive her to study as hard as she can to gain acceptance at her dream school, Yale. But what Brooke keeps hidden from her classmates is just how ambitious she truly is. Her true nature is that of a manipulator, almost sociopathic bully who is willing to do anything to get what she wants. Although the matter had been kept hidden from the press to prevent a scandal, her father had recently wasted all of her college funds on gambling and hookers, threatening her dreams of getting into Yale and the political sphere at large. Desperate, she realized that her only way of attaining her goal was to take advantage of a state law that provided the valedictorian of any graduating class with free tuition to any school in the nation. After sneaking into the school's grade database, she realized that her GPA was second only to one other student, Dolores Roth. Ooh, that was a long one. Enraged by this newfound obstacle, Brooke devised a cruel plot intended to wound Dolores so badly that either her grades would suffer, she would drop out of school, or even that she would kill herself. The exact outcome wouldn't matter as long as she could steal the valedictorian honor from her. First, she enlisted the help of Neil DeVar, blackmailing her into telling Dolores that a popular senior, Kyle Mason, had invited her to prom. Then, she used a deal she had made with Maggie Pham the previous year as leverage to get her to create a fake social media page in Kyle's name to confirm Neela's story. Finally, Brooke herself would get a rumor mill started, lending even more credibility to the lie. Meanwhile, to ensure Dolores' humiliation, the three girls would attempt to win Kyle's attention and go to prom with him, an endeavor which quickly turned into a game of sorts. Although she found herself charmed by his advances, he remained merely a means to an end in her eyes. Wow. So, we sort of swooed her a bit, but she had her dreams at a higher priority and further beyond than the idea of love. Yowzers. You know, she does kind of look like the senator type. Just her face. On prom night, after Dolores had realized she'd been tricked, Brooke and her posse continued to humiliate the heartbroken girl even further, with Brooke going as far as to abuse her physically and goad her into killing herself, acts to which even Neela and Maggie protest. And while Brooke would get what she wanted to in the form of Dolores' suicide, the act would ultimately result in something much more horrific than she could have possibly imagined. In the end, Brooke would suffer quite possibly the most gruesome and ironic death of the three girls. The intelligence she had valued so much would be destroyed via a crude ice-pick lobotomy, forcing her to suffer in a painful, mute vegetative state before ultimately dying at Claire's and, by extension, Dolores' hand. Okay, who is next? Claire. Claire, just Claire, one of the antagonists of the story, a supposed new transfer to St. Giles, Claire has an extremely mysterious, almost inhumane air about her. She seems to always be smiling no matter what, and no one has ever claimed to see her express anger, sadness, or fear. No one knows where she came from or what her family life is like. However, because she is so kind to everyone, particularly the disabled students she acts as a peer aide for, she's never made any enemies at the school. Over the course of the game, however, it becomes very clear that Claire is no ordinary high school student. On prom night, out of seemingly nowhere, she carries out the gruesome tortures and murders of Neela DeVar, Maggie Pham, and Brooke O'Keefe, her unnerving smile never wavering throughout. Only after the last of the 3 girls is killed does Kyle begin to realize that Claire isn't even human, but rather a soulless proxy created by Dolores to carry out her revenge in ways that her disability prevents her from doing herself. Unable to feel any emotions, she merely acts upon her mistress's order and expresses no free will of her own. While Claire was not based on any specific student on St. Giles Academy, she was based on an initial attempt by Dolores to create a magical proxy via a spell within her family's grimoire, Magicae Sanguinis. Although she had intended to use this weekend-limited creation as a companion during her times of loneliness, Dolores quickly realized that any friendship shown by the proxy would not be genuine, but rather a function of following its creator's orders, and she eventually abandoned the idea altogether. When she needed someone to carry out her rampage, however, she revived her creation, this time as nothing more than an obedient servant. Near the end of the game, Claire further explained that, while she knew that the bloodshed was not a true reflection of Dolores' heart, she had no ability or desire to go against her mistress's will and has no regret for what she's done. Then, her role finally finished, she eliminates herself. Dolores Roth. Dolores Apollonia Roth. The ultimate antagonist of the story. Prior to the events of the game, Dolores was the last living descendant of H. Jericho Roth, founder of the multi-billion-dollar energy giant Roth Industrial. While she was known for her intellectual giftedness and was a clear candidate for St. Giles valedictorian honor, she was extremely withdrawn from her fellow students. She was usually described as kind-hearted, creative, but lonely. She also had a difficult time letting go of bitterness, something which would ultimately contribute to her dark descent. Despite her family's wealth and powers, Dolores had experienced a number of struggles throughout her life. Born with a form of cerebral palsy that left her barely able to walk and perform menial motor tasks, Dolores experienced rejection and ostracization from a very young age, starting with her father's abandonment and continuing through her high school years. When her mother Eleanor, the only person who had consistently given her love and affection, succumbed to cancer during Dolores' sophomore year, she was placed under the care of her aunt Isabel, who had married into the family via Eleanor's deceased younger brother. However, Isabel was far from the warm, caring guardian that she needed. She would often disregard Dolores' feeling of independence, infantilized her, and squandered her inheritance money. These events left Dolores with a hole in her heart that could never truly be filled. In her loneliness, she would often lose herself in love stories and daydream of a fairy tale romance, a boy who would finally make her feel loved and wanted for who she was. As the years passed, however, she began to doubt that this dream of hers would ever come true. The thought that no one would ever look at her with anything but disgust or pity began to crush her, sinking her into a depression that no one but her school counselor was aware of, till one fateful day when her schoolmate Neela DeVar told her that Kyle Mason wanted to invite her to prom. Although Dolores didn't believe her at first, Neela showed her what appeared to be a post by Kyle on the school's social media page confirming her story. Elated that her dream of romance was finally coming true, she used her meager allowance from her aunt to buy a dress and went to meet up with Kyle at prom. When she found him, however, she learned that he had actually come with another girl, and she soon realized that the entire thing has been a terrible, elaborate hoax. To make matters worse, the girls responsible, Neela and Maggie in particular, Brooke, quickly found her and began humiliating her. The cruelty, especially on Brooke's part, would be final straw for Dolores. In the years following her mother's death, she had toyed with an old grimoire that had been passed down through her family, Magicae Sanguinis, and discovered her own magical abilities which she would then use to exact her revenge. Using a broken bottle, she performed an unspeakable rite, sacrificing herself to the demon Moloch in order to become a powerful, nigh omnipotent supernatural being. With her newfound power, she began her murderous rampage, first killing her aunt via Claire, her proxy, and then trapping Neil and Maggie, Brooke, and Kyle into a looping nightmare world where she would ultimately kill the girls and force Kyle to watch. Finally, after murdering the people who had tormented her in life, she sent Kyle on arranged quests to learn about her past, and her motives, a way to make sure that the boy who had broken her heart fully understood what he had done. Depending on which ending the player achieves, Dolores' fate changes. In the bad ending, she finds herself succumbing fully to madness, keeping Kyle within her world and trapping him inside of a delusional romance. In a normal ending, she curses Kyle in a life of social ostracization by rendering him paralyzed and remains free to continue her bloody rampage. Finally, in a good ending, Kyle reunites her with the spirit of her mother, who convinces her to stop her killing and set Kyle free. Then, unable to go to heaven or hell, she wanders to Earth with her mother, uncertain whether she will be able to fully redeem herself. Eleanor Marie Roth, Dolores' mother, who died 2 years prior to the game's events. In life, she was often described as a gentle, warm person whose generosity was only matched by her business sense and determination. She was also a gifted writer who wrote poetry in her spare time. As the eldest grandchild of H. Jericho Roth, she served as a key board member with Roth Industrial. It was in this role that she met Dolores' father, a Brazilian businessman with big dreams of love and luxury. However, these dreams did not include raising a child with significant disabilities, and a couple separated when Dolores was still a toddler. Determined to make up for her father's abandonment, Eleanor doted upon her daughter, even retiring in order to take care of her full-time. She encouraged Dolores' academic talents and independence despite her disabilities, and in the process, she became a key pillar of support in Dolores' life. That all changed, however, when she received a diagnosis of stage 4 cancer as her daughter started high school. As her treatment failed and death seemed imminent, Eleanor began to fear for her daughter's well-being when she was gone. After all, most of her family was either estranged or dead, and her one living relative, Isabel Roth, could not be trusted to provide for her the way that she deserved. In desperation, she turned to the Roth family's best-kept secret, her grandfather's ties to the occult and the grimoire, Magicae Sanguinis. Like Dolores, Eleanor had magical abilities in her blood, and knowing that she was going to die regardless, she performed the same ritual suicide that her daughter would years later. However, Eleanor's power drew from love rather than hatred, enabling her to become a guardian spirit of sorts for Dolores. Unfortunately, her presence in her daughter's life began to fade as she sank deeper into depression and loneliness, and by the time she had performed her own deadly ritual, she had completely shut her mother out, leaving Eleanor powerless to stop her. Knowing that her abilities were useless inside Dolores' hate-forged nightmare world, Eleanor had no choice but to rely on the very boy her daughter had cursed, Kyle Mason. Using what little power she still had, she left evidence of herself, a poem for her daughter, for Kyle to find. As Kyle performed good deeds and found the tokens of her love, Eleanor hoped to pierce the nightmare world's darkness just enough to make her presence known. However, it would happen to be Kyle whom Dolores still held a silver of longing for, who will fully reopen her heart to her mother's presence. In the good ending, Kyle is successful in doing this, and Eleanor is finally able to convince her daughter to stop her senseless bloodshed. Then, unable to go to heaven or hell, she stays with Dolores as they wander the earth together. And Serena Carmen Gutierrez. Wow, she actually has a portrait I did not expect her to have a portrait. Kyle's deceased ex-girlfriend, Serena, was always described as a sweet, outgoing girl with a passion for the outdoors. Known as a social butterfly around her school, she had many friends, and she was fiercely loyal to both them and Kyle. As she prepared for her to enter her senior year of high school, she dreamt of graduation, college, and of course, spending as much time with her loved ones as possible beforehand. She had even made a promise to go to prom again with Kyle after enjoying herself so much the previous year. However, next year's prom never came. While on a summer road trip with friends, she was involved in a violent car crash and fire. All the girls in the vehicle suffered serious injuries and burns, but none were as horrific as Serena's, whose burns encompassed her entire body and whose face became nearly unrecognizable as a result. While in the hospital, she was visited by distraught Kyle, and with what little voice she had left, she begged him to stay by her side. But her pleas were met with silence as Kyle, unable to bear the weight of the situation, walked away from her. Heartbroken, she passed away mere hours later, leaving behind a wealth of grieving friends and family and a traumatized Kyle. Although Serena herself is long dead by the events of the story, Dolores uses Kyle's memory of her as a tool of psychological terror against him. Throughout the game, Kyle is stalked by a creature resembling Serena as he last saw her, burnt, bloodied, and bandaged, who seeks to punish him for his abandonment in gruesome ways. However, though Dolores created this being out of contempt on Serena's behalf, there is also an element of self-projection. She sees Kyle's past action as proof of his alleged disregard towards women, particularly those who do not meet some standard of normalcy. Only when Kyle acknowledges his guilt does this creature relent in his pursuit, allowing him to finally confront Dolores herself on her own crimes. And we just finished the diary entries. Woo! I need a bottle of water. 1 second. Alright, next up. Alright, that was very pleasant. View the developer's note on Serena. Yes. Well, hey, when you got an RPG Maker horror game, you gotta have something chasing you around at some point. It's like a law or something. For some reason, for real though, Serena's story was my way of giving Kyle his own dark secret, like I'd done with the other girls. That way, none of the characters would be completely innocent, except for Randy. Randy did nothing wrong! And it gave an otherwise pretty generic character an arc of sorts. Although, I felt bad that you don't really get to see Serena while she was alive in the game, so I snuck a picture of her pre-accident in the character encyclopedia. Go check it out! Also, I picked the name Serena because it was a nice, ironic contrast to the way you see her in the game, screaming and bloodthirsty and definitely not serene. It had absolutely nothing to do with any magical girl shows that were completely butchered in their English dub. No siree, aka dud. Is it the Magical Girls? That anime? Is it? Cause I did watch that anime, but I don't exactly understand the reference. In life, her favorite food was macaroni salad. I don't know. It probably did. I think. I don't know the reference though. Anyways. If it's an apology you're looking for, don't hold your breath. I'm not ready to give one just yet. That said, it was fun while it lasted, being the villain and all. I mean, if you're going to have a total mental breakdown and make the worst possible choices, you might as well do it in style. Go big or go home, right? Don't tell my mom I said that. Yeah, developers knows I'm Dolores. I'm going to admit, a lot of Dolores' backstory and motivations were very loosely inspired by my own experience of being bullied in high school. Aww. Even though that they were very loosely inspired, it was so inspired, and I'm sorry for your troubles in your past, but hey, I'm glad to hear that you've grown past it, and you even made this game out of it. So, awesome. Well, going into details, she's basically a highly exaggerated representation of the alienation and resentment I felt, and I kind of wanted her to serve as a warning against letting those negative emotions get the better of you. If you want to say Promties had a moral, anyway, Now, with the heavy stuff out of the way, I actually had a lot of fun writing Dolores as the mad evil mastermind. The more I wrote her lines, the more I realized what a drama queen I made her. LOL. I guess I can justify it by saying that her mother was a poet, and that the gift of word and wit runs through the family. Speaking of which, she's totally the type of person who writes smoutzy fanfiction. Just saying, I do not understand what that means. I don't read a lot of fanfiction, so I'm not entirely sure. Finally, Dolores' second theme song, Queen of Broken Hearts, was heavily inspired by the works of Emilia Autumn. The percussion is a bit more Akira Yamaoka than Emily, though. I had even written a distorted violin part for the song in a similar style, but the end result made the song too chaotic sounding, so I sadly had to axe it. Oh well. Also, her favorite food is club sandwiches. That's funny. Man, talk about shitty luck. First I get my arms lopped off, then I get stuck in video game limbo for all eternity. Although, I guess technically, I'm only stuck here till you decide to shut the game off, but still. Anyway, you can check the board behind me to look at some of the pictures you saw throughout the game. Just don't expect a bunch of high quality anime style CG stills, though. That's only for games made by people who can actually, you know, draw. I feel your pain. Oh, I feel your pain. I wish I could draw. Few developers know Maggie. Maggie is clearly based on a tsundere archetype. Ooh, we called it. A character who's rough and tough on the outside, but is secretly soft and squishy on the end. Granted, she's a bit more snarky and foul-mouthed than your typical tsundere girl, but she's also got some dumb jock thrown in the mix, so I guess it was kind of unavoidable. She was also the very first of the girls that was given a name during pre-development. For some reason, Maggie stuck with me as a great name for an American tsundere character. Maybe it's because it sounds tomboyish. I don't know. Also, I originally envisioned her acting a bit meaner towards Dolores, but I realized that it would be more consistent with her personality to be reluctant about it. Plus, I already had Brooke be unapologetically horrible to her, so making Maggie do it too would be overkill. Also, her favorite food is hamburgers. Yeah, I think we know that one. Excuse me, but do you happen to know where we are exactly? Wait, this isn't Naraka, I mean, hell, is it? No wait, this can't possibly be hell. It's way too nice looking. Plus, if we were in hell, I wouldn't have my tongue back, would I? Anyway, it looks like there's a bunch of information about the backstory and lore of our game on this billboard behind me. Who knows, maybe you'll find out something interesting if you read it. Yes, please. Neela was intended to be based on two dating sim archetypes, the Moe character and the obligatory cute glasses girl. She's friendly, klutzy, and even does a less Japanese version of the stereotypical bento box ritual in which a girl gives a lunch back to her male love interest. Yeah, I totally felt all that, and I think everyone else did as well. So good job. Of course, like all of the girls, her stereotypes are turned on their heads, as she's not nearly as innocent as she seems to be. In my opinion, Neela ended up being the most sympathetic out of the three mean girls. It'd be interesting to see if any of you guys, the player, think differently. By the way, Neela's name means dark blue in Sanskrit. According to the internet anyway, that's why I eventually picked it, as blue is her theme color. Also, her favorite food is strawberries, but she adores her grandma's homemade curries as well. Oh yeah, she does love strawberries. I forgot about that. Alright, let's view some pictures. Here's the laughing right, and the X. Ooh, I appreciate that. Wait, what's the difference? The flowers. The flowers are more real. Oh god, the flowers are getting evil. Oh god, the flower made evil. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. Hey, if you were able to do all of these, I'm impressed. I mean, granted that the puzzles were probably more taken off the internet and you made the puzzle pieces out of them, but still, that's impressive. Even this is impressive. That's a nice looking map. That one is this looks like it was out of, no offense of course, it kind of looks like it was a bit out of Microsoft Word. I think I used that table before. That color scheme at least. Although this emblem in the middle, I've never seen that before. So if you made that, good job. Oh, did we see this? I don't remember. Yeah, we did see that. We did see that. I just don't remember. But it looks familiar, so we definitely had seen it. Oh, that evil ritual book looks so good. So brilliant. Oh, that actually looks pretty good too. Aww. Oh. Yeah, we didn't see this. Oh, that must be the other endings. Oh, well, you guys already saw it if you've seen the previous parts, but I did not see this before. Alright. Evil Brook. So, this is where fictional characters go when they die, huh? It's not exactly the pearly gates, is it? How droll. Anyway, if you want to listen to the game's background music, you can check the piano right over here. Just try not to be too loud with it, will you? I still got a headache from that whole ice pick incident. Brook. Ooh boy, what a doozy of a character. To be honest, I wonder if I made her a bit too unlikable. But then I remembered that yes, there are teenagers that's sadistics in this world. Coupled with the power her family wields and her intelligence, and you've got yourself a bona fide high school supervillain. Prior to her reveal as the Queen Bee, she was supposed to represent the Kundere archetype, the cool, collected, mature girl who may or not be intelligent as well. Kundere, I actually never heard that archetype before. Of course, this is all an act to hide her true colors, though I'd like to think that if she lived, karma would have come to bite her in the ass eventually and make her learn her lesson. When development on the game was just beginning, Brooke was going to be called Bridget. However, a friend I was bouncing off ideas with reminded me of a real-life bully from my childhood named Brooke, and it stuck from then on. Pretty sure her namesake isn't going to be playing a game like this though. Lol. Also, her favorite food is sushi. God damn it, why do I have to love the same food that this girl loves? I mean, I won't say that sushi is my favorite food. It's like in the top 5. But I also really like hamburgers. And I also really like pizza. But I love Chinese food. There aren't enough words in this world that can express my gratitude for what you've done. You put an end to Dolores' bloodshed. Now she can finally begin to heal, so thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm going to have a few words with my daughter regarding the dangers of black magic. Your mother's work is never over, it seems, not even in death. Hello, Eleanor. Eleanor was the last character to be created prior to the game's development, mainly because I needed a way to make a good ending possible. The idea that for Dolores' mother to be her saving grace was inspired by how my own mother helped me through some of my tougher moments in high school. Aww, thanks Mom. Sorry I'm disappointing you by making violent, scary games with bad words in it. Lala. I also didn't want to inadvertently reward Dolores' evil actions for the romance she wanted for her happy ending. That's why I would save for the bad ending. So I made it to where she got some form of comfort and forgiveness through her mother instead. That, I feel, was a more appropriately bittersweet conclusion. Also, while Claire's theme was the first to be composed, Eleanor's theme, A Mother's Tear, was the first character theme to be completed. It actually went through a couple of versions before I settled on one that I liked, a very crappy piano solo, which would be reworked into the song Remembrance. Then a prototype of the current version without the bass line, and finally the version you hear in the game. In hindsight, it actually reminds me a lot of an ice level theme, or maybe something by Yanni. Also, I like Shaker Bells. Heh. In life, her favorite food was crab cakes. I'm okay with crab cakes. I don't think I had good crab cakes before though. That's part of the reason why. Oh, hello there. I do hope you enjoyed yourself while playing this game. And by enjoyed yourself, I mean experience unimaginable fear and impending doom over your complete inability to save anyone. But oh, what is it you humans say? Same difference, right? Claire. I'm not gonna lie, I actually like Claire. She was really cool in my opinion. Ah yes, Claire, the red herring. Well, kind of. She's supposed to give off a mysterious transfer student vibe with plenty of foreshadowing to her non-human nature. For real, check out her eyes, like Dolores and Eleanor in spirit forms. She has no pupils. Sharp-eyed players will catch a hint here or there that she's not the ultimate villain of the story she's initially made out to be, particularly when she and Dolores are together. Check them out if you decide to replay the game. Also, Claire's theme song, Servant's Heart, was the very first song I composed for the game, even before the main theme. However, I didn't actually complete the track until a few months later, since I wasn't sure what to do once I transcribed the piano part. It was when I realized I had a great violin sound bank I could use that I got around to finishing it. What's her favorite food is? Nothing, actually. She doesn't eat, being made up of pure demonic magic and all. Heh. Claire's theme is actually my favorite theme of the whole game. I love it. I absolutely love it. There's something about it that's just so perfect. Well, it's official. I'm never dating again. Ever. Glug glug. Damn, you're so depressed. Hey, don't look at me like that. It's just root beer, I swear. View the developers known on Kyle. If Kyle seemed to you like a typical generic harem game protagonist, it's because that's exactly what he was meant to be. Because Prom is supposed to be a subversion of your typical high school dating sim, I wanted Kyle to play the role of the archetypical dating sim hero, who was unexpectedly thrown into a nightmare scenario. However, in the process, I realized I also made him an archetypical JRPG hero towards the end of the game. Chronic hero syndrome, nice dude syndrome, determination in the face of unimaginable odds, etc. He also a lot more genre savvy than I originally intended him to be, but let's be honest, who likes a stupid horror protagonist anyway? Also, I realized early in on development how much he looked like Kuda from the manga/anime Elfen Lied, and how he even played a similar role to the story, so I guess that makes Dolores Lucy. Lol. Man, I keep telling myself I'll go watch Elfen Lied, but I procrastinated so long that they finally took it off of Netflix and I regret it. So, feels bad. Feels bad. But I did get the feeling that he looked very familiar, and maybe I did see Kuda before, like a picture of him, and that's probably where I was thinking from. Finally, I know what you horror game fans are probably thinking. No, he's not related to Harry Mason, but the homage was intentional. Also, his favorite food is sausage pizza. Well, hey, look, I like pizza too. Alright, let's get some music playing. The evil one. I love it. So cute. Oh, I love the fact that you have an abbreviation on whose theme it is. I like the title for this one. I really like the title for this one. Most Valuable Player, MVP. Elegant Ambition. I don't know why, but Brooks Deans feels so flirty, and at the same time, I can't trust it. It's something I would feel from a spy girl. Oh, I love this one. Ooh, I love both of them. I don't know which I like better. I think I like 8 better. A Dying Dream, Dolores' theme. God, Dolores' theme is so heartbreaking. They actually fit her so well. I don't know. I do get that motherly vibe from this. And I also get a very, very sad vibe as well. Oh yeah, this was when they told the story, the prom dream stories. That's what I was thinking of. Oh, that one was so twisted. Oh wow, I never noticed that the 3 days were different. I honestly never noticed. They're so similar that that's kind of magical. I kind of just assumed that they played just to give each moment something different, but they were actually day dependent. That's crazy. Oh, look at all those prom nightmares. Ooh, this one has some boom. I love the boom. Yeah, why would I listen to that? Wow, you really went further and beyond with all the music. I'm speeding through this because I feel like we got an idea that these are all spoopy sounds. Ooh, just how many are there? I don't know why, but this song gives me something very, very anime feeling. Like, when I hear this, the very beginning of it, it gives me a sort of Gundam Seed vibe, if you guys ever seen Gundam Seed. Ooh. 53, god damn, that's so many. Oh, that's like Claire's theme. See, it's so good. It's been recreated 2 more times. Alright, I'm gonna let this one play. Wait, we already did that. Okay, this is the one I want. Read the Prom Dreams Compendium. Please select a topic. St. Giles Academy. St. Giles Academy is a private, prestigious Episcopal school founded in 1973 by the local diocese. It was named after the patron saint of the sick and disabled. Its school mascot is the hind, or a female deer. Its symbol also associated with the saint. Despite its religious foundation, however, it is open to members of all faiths, as many modern religious institutions are. The academy is primarily attended by the children of rich and or powerful families, and it boasts a high graduation rate, top-tier special education and disability services, a championship-winning co-ed basketball team and choir, and highly credentialed teachers and faculty. As a private school, St. Giles is a smaller institution with an average class size of around 30 to 40 students. It also operates somewhat unorthodoxically, as its head of school, Marianne Ackerman, doubles as the principal. Some may also consider it to be a rather lax environment where students are granted quite a bit of freedom, especially during their lunch and study hall periods. This might be a part of the reason why morale at the school is generally high. However, like all high schools, cheating, bullying, and other unsavory facts of life all rear their heads from time to time. Even murder has a place in St. Giles' seemingly spotless history. The faculty. St. Giles Academy boasts a diverse, highly Dr. Marianne Ackerman, head of school, took over after the previous head resigned over the murder of Annie Horowitz. Struggled to maintain the school's image while still supporting her students. Miss Trisha McKenzie, secretary, a busybody who goes to great lengths to keep everything organized, sometimes likes to get nosy in students' business. Dr. Amara Igwe, excuse me, sorry. I don't know how to pronounce that at all. School nurse, a talented practitioner who isn't afraid to crack a few jokes at the expense of students. Dr. Joseph Bradshaw, school counselor, a little bit old school in his methods, but caring nonetheless. One of the students' greatest allies and one of the only people privy to the Dolores school/home situation. Mrs. Henrietta Princeton, a librarian, an elderly woman with a great knowledge of random trivia. She's a big enforcer of the late book policy. Mrs. Helen Ortiz, lead special ed teacher and home economics instructor, believes heavily in inclusion and practical skills instruction. Spearheaded the peer aid system. He used to be a baker. Mr. Dale Dixon, computer teacher, known for his gruff personality and redneck aesthetics, can often be seen cussing out malfunctioning electronics. Oh, that was him? I thought it was just some random student. Mrs. Latoya Robinson, math teacher, never really outgrew the nerdy girl image she got in high school, so she's well liked by all the smarter kids. Does advanced mathematics for fun in her spare time. Mrs. Florence Takibana, history and social studies teacher, teaches her classes with an emphasis on current events and social issues while encouraging debates and discussion among students. She arranges flowers as a hobby. Mr. David Neo, literature teacher and Kyle and Randy's homeroom teacher, very personable and a little bit hippie-ish. He enjoys open-ended assignments that make students think. Also, plays the guitar. Monsieur Simon Duval, foreign language teacher, originally from France, fluent in French, English, Spanish, and German, and teaches classes in 3 of those languages. Bit of a hard ass. Dr. Barry Wilcox, biology teacher, twin brother of Dr. Larry, shares a rivalry with his less serious, more laid-back brother, Dr. Larry Wilcox. Chemistry teacher, twin brother of Dr. Barry, shares a rivalry with his less jovial, more traditional brother. You know, I was gonna say, rather than wearing sunglasses, he could just wear different hairstyles. But I guess since Larry is more laid back and kind of the jokier one, he probably purposely made his hairstyle the same as Barry just to push his buttons. Mr. Mike Cruz, music teacher, known for being a perfectionist and for his epic meltdowns when performances don't go as planned. Not very well liked, but undeniably talented. Mrs. Layla Darvish, art teacher, somewhat airheaded, but very warm, supportive of students' creative talents. She's been compared to Bob Ross in terms of chill factor, talented in painting, sculpture, and sewing. Coach Jenna Bolero, basketball coach and PE instructor, has a tendency to work her students hard and get a little too enthusiastic at games, but well liked nonetheless. John Jerkins, Mr. John, head janitor, known for being a grouch, but in reality is just overworked and underappreciated. Takes his job way too seriously. Wait a second. He gave me the bandana, but I never used the bandana. What? Could I have used the bandana for my inventory this whole time and I would have just worn it? Oh man. Oh man. I would like to see Kyle and a banana. Wouldn't you guys like to see Kyle and a banana? I would love to see Kyle and a banana. The murder of Annie Horowitz. Annie Horowitz was a beautiful, popular student in St. Giles Academy's senior class of '05. She was often described as being unconditionally friendly to all who knew her. This included her classmate, Kenneth Wheeler, a troubled boy with an unsavory home life. In his struggles with depression and violent urges, Kenneth had a daydream of a girl who could save him from it all and make his life worth living again. Fortunately, his unrealistic expectations and unstable mental state created a deadly combination for Annie. Infatuated with Annie's kindness towards him, Kenneth asked her to prom. However, he was denied as she had already promised to go with someone else and had only platonic feelings for Kenneth. Having planned for his seemingly inevitable rejection, Kenneth then pulled out a knife and stabbed Annie numerous times. He then disposed of the body less than a mile from campus, returned home, and hung himself in his room. He left a suicide note which entailed his desire to die rather than live his unfulfilled dream of love. The aftermath of the tragedy would have disastrous consequences for the school. Administrators resigned, attendance dropped for the following year, and students of the class of '05 would be on the receiving end of unwanted public attention for months to come. Years later, a memorial fountain would be built in a courtyard in Annie's honor, and later still, history will repeat itself, as the equally troubled Dolores Roth would also commit unspeakable acts in the name of unrequited love. Sorry for all the troubled reading. It's just that all the reading in general has got me a little bit blah, 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 blah. If that makes sense to you. St. Giles PTA. While never shown directly within the story, with the exception of Eleanor Roth, many of the characters' parents play important side roles in Prom Dreams. What is PTA? Parent, teacher, attendance? What? Rachel Kinsley Mason, Kyle's mother, also known as R.K. Mason, author of the famous young adult franchise, Eternal Blood. Despite Kyle not being a fan of her books, which are geared mostly towards teen girls with an affinity for vampires, they're quite close, and Rachel always acts as the best interest of her son. The family's sudden brush with financial success is what allows Kyle to attend the prestigious St. Giles Academy in the first place, and she was also a great source of comfort for him after his ex-girlfriend Serena died. Mahendra Devar. Neela's immigrant father who lives a secret life fronting for various organized crime syndicates. Although on the surface he seems like a successful real estate business, he's kept a secret from his wife, but unbeknownst to him, his daughter found out about his secret dealings years ago and simply chose to deny that they ever happened. He's currently under investigation by the FBI, which Brooke catches wind of thanks to her father's connection to the borough. Senator Edgar O'Keefe. Brooke's father, a cutthroat politician who's infamous for his hard-line policies and ruthless attacks on his opponents. He has ties with high-ranking figures in the FBI, and he has used these ties to cover up a number of indiscretion, including the spending of his daughter's college fund on hookers and gambling. While the scandal was successfully kept from leaking to the public, it would cause an irreparable rift in the O'Keefe family and would eventually lead to Brooke's desperate, cold-blooded plot against Dolores. In this case, the apple certainly doesn't fall far from the tree. Juan Silva de Santiago. Dolores' estranged father, a Brazilian businessman with lofty dreams. He met Eleanor during her time serving in Roth's Industrial's board of directors. Their marriage, however, didn't last long. When their daughter, Dolores, was diagnosed with cerebral palsy, he considered it a dark spot in his dreams and ambition, and try as he might, he could not bring himself to love the little girl. When he divorced Eleanor and returned to Brazil, he believed he was doing what was best for everyone involved, but even so, Eleanor could never bring herself to forgive him, and Dolores would still grow up under the shadow of being abandoned for being different. It's implied that after carrying out her revenge scheme on the student of St. Giles, Dolores planned to sneak out and kill him as well. Wow, so he's the sole survivor of this all. Maggie's father, a retired Army colonel. Although unmentioned, unrelated to the story of Prom Dreams, He's said to have a gruff attitude similar to Maggie's. Despite this, he appears to be the only one of the girl's fathers to have a relatively clean background. Okay, before we actually do read it, let's change the theme. As much as I like it, it's a bit too unfitting for this room. Let's go and here, we'll do Brooks. Alright, the art of magic. Man, do I know nothing about it. In the universe of Prom Dreams, the ability to use magic is primarily genetic and can be found in many families and to a varying degree. The Roth family is a particularly powerful line whose roots can be traced to an old German clan of white witches. Although the type of magic found in Magicae Sanguinis is only usable by those with certain genes, non-magic users can still utilize magical items such as talismans, charms, or relics. The degree of magical power an individual possesses varies from person to person and even from one spell to the next. As a general rule, people with higher intelligence in any number of domains tend to be more powerful witches/warlocks, but an individual's emotional state is the more relevant variable in quantifying their power. Extreme emotions such as fear, desperation, euphoria, or love can significantly amplify the effects of any given spell. For example, Dolores not only came from a long line of witches and was considered intellectually gifted, but she was also filled with hate and rage at the time she performed her ritual. All of these factors resulted in a devastating reality warping, nigh impenetrable curse that was too powerful for even Eleanor, a talented witch in her own right, to stop. Magicae Sanguinis is an obscure grimoire of European origin. Although no one really knows where in the continent it was written, much less the original author, very few copies are known to exist, and while these copies are generally accepted to have been printed in the 18th or early 19th centuries, mentions of the tome and its contents have also been spotted in medieval esoteric literature, suggesting that the book is likely much older. The copy kept by the Roth family most likely came with them from Germany, their country of origin prior to the 20th century. As the grimoire's name, which translates to blood magic, implies, the spells found within its pages are of a very dark and often violent nature. These spells involve the sacrifice of human or animal blood with demonic forces in exchange for immense magical power. Although the exact requirement of each one vary. While the contract with Moloch involves the murder of a third party or the suicide of the spellcaster, depending on the intended outcome, the spell originally used by Dolores to create Claire, a contract with Renove, giver of servants, only requires the user to gather a small amount of organic material in teaspoons of their own blood. The demon king Moloch. Moloch is a high-ranking demonic ruler of hell who has solicited human sacrifice in exchange for power and prosperity since time immemorial. Yeah. In biblical times, Cananites would often sacrifice their young children to the flames of Moloch before the practice was eventually banned under Jewish law. Perhaps in the world of Prom Dreams, he was also responsible for the atrocious human sacrificial rituals found across other cultures. Unlike the popular perception of demons, Moloch's subsistence relies on the life force of humans rather than their spirits. In other words, he feasts on blood and flesh rather than souls. In exchange for this flesh and blood, Moloch grants the wishes of the user who performs the sacrifice, regardless of their motives or moral character. In ancient times, such wishes would have been for the safety of the tribes or a good harvest. For H. Jericho Roth, it was the power and luck needed to bring his company back from the brink of bankruptcy and become a multi-millionaire. However, Moloch grants special favors for those willing to offer their own bodies up as sacrifice, allowing them to live on after death as powerful, immortal beings capable of nearly godlike feats. What these individuals do with their power is entirely up to them, as Moloch is far more interested in watching what mortals do with their power than interfering with their affairs. This was why Eleanor was able to use her powers for good, while Dolores used hers for more sinister purposes. Okay, in the nightmare world. Prom dreams take place almost entirely within a mirror world created by Dolores specifically to torment Kyle and murder Neil and Maggie and Brooke, which existed outside of the normal conventions of space and time. While it resembles the true St. Giles Academy and its surrounding city, its spatial and temporal properties are apt to change according to its creator's whims. Taking full advantage of her powers, Dolores distorted the physical world around Kyle and the girls and looped the same 3 days over and over again, all in an attempt to psychologically torture the people she felt responsible for her murder dreams. In addition, the inhabitants of this extra-dimensional world are also mirrors of their true selves, with the exceptions of Kyle, Neil, Maggie, and Brooke, who were all brought there by Dolores, Eleanor, who used her own powers to infiltrate it, Claire, who was sent there to carry out her mission, and of course Dolores herself. These mirror people all show varying degrees of self-awareness. Some, like Randy, Mr. Neo, and others, know full well what they are and act on their creator's behalf. Others are completely oblivious to their true nature, believing themselves to be the original people they were based on, and others still fall somewhere in between, such as Dr. Ackerman, who slowly began to realize that things aren't quite what they seem. What eventually becomes of the nightmare world varies according to which ending is obtained. In the good ending, it vanishes entirely, while in the bad ending, it acts as a prison for Kyle's spirit and a haven for Dolores to live out her deluded fantasies of romance. In a normal ending, however, it's unclear whether Dolores is finished with her twisted creation or is simply abiding her time until she finds its next victim. And that, you guys, is absolutely everything that there is to this secret room. Woo! What a number! What a game! If you guys want to hear my full thoughts about the game, then do watch the finale, the good ending, the video of the good ending. I am without words right now. I have been reading nonstop for over an hour. Yowzas. Alright, that said, guys, please tell me you like Prom Dreams. Obviously you guys like Prom Dreams, because what else are you watching this video for? So, anyways, I'll see you in a new one. Till then, guys, ciao!